So my recent thoughts about the map of the Flanaess got me thinking about water travel and seaborne adventures and why we don't really see that many of them in the world of Greyhawk. So that's what I want to talk about today on Greyhawk Grognard. So when I was doing my video about separating the Flanaess into the west and east map, one of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that the east map, the half of the map that has the Great Kingdom and that part of the Flanaess on it, has a lot more water than the other map. And that got me thinking that you don't really see a lot of waterborne adventures in the world of Greyhawk. It's almost entirely the adventures you find are on land. There's a few exceptions, like Salt Marsh has some underwater stuff in it. And the slavers are a lot of times they'll say the slavers come in ships, and I think one of them actually one of the encounters takes place on a ship and things like that. But it's a ship in a harbor, so there's really nothing that pushes the idea that there's a lot happening on the water itself. We do see some stuff in the near dive. Gygax in Saga of Old City, the novel, did a lot of stuff with the Rennehy on the near dive. And that is an exception, I think, because it's a relatively small body of water. The Rennehy are using barges that just go around the coasts for the most part. You don't really see a lot of indications that there's a lot of ocean-borne traffic. We do get some hints that there is some river traffic. I know one Greyhawk fan did an extensive series of things with an adventure series going down a long river, which is a great idea. But again, that doesn't really give you the impression that there's a lot going on in the oceans. Grendet Bay, we know for a fact that the Sul barbarians in the Filronian Peninsula crossed the Grendet Bay to attack Bone March and North Province and the Sea Barons, but we've never actually seen it in an adventure. We know that there's stuff going on in the Spindrift Sound and the Airdy Sea. There's battles happening in Relmore Bay. We learn about these in the Dragon Magazine articles from the 80s that Gygax and Kunst did. But again, we don't really see anything in an adventure to indicate this. We know that the control of the southern waters, the the Tilva Strait in particular is essential to the plans of the Scarlet Brotherhood, but we don't know why. We never really learn about these large amounts of shipborne trade that are going through that strait. And I think this is a missed opportunity, honestly, in the world of Greyhawk. Especially in some of the shallower seas, like the Woolly Bay, Relmore Bay, Jalea Bay, the Airdy Sea, Spindrift Sound, even Grendet Bay. There's a lot of opportunity there for not only shipborne adventures, but because you could have little islands, you could have underwater kingdoms and stuff like that. But you could have these underwater civilizations. You've got mermen and tritons and Sahuagin and Lakotha. There's all kinds of things that you could have under the water, especially if you're dealing with a shallower water. Like in the middle of the Azure Sea, as you can see on this map, it's really, really immensely deep, and unless you've really got some sort of special apparatus, magical or otherwise, to get down that deep, there's probably cool stuff down there, and you could do a whole Lovecraftian thing, with a sunken city and the deep ones. You could have a colony of Quotoa that are lost to the ages and lost track of their cousins who are in the underworld and so forth. There's all kinds of things you could do in the really deep depths. The Aboleths could be down there. There's all kinds of stuff, but you don't really see it in the published works. And I like the idea of the PCs having access to a ship. Maybe they even own a ship, or they won. They got the deed to a ship as part of a treasure or something, and that opens up all kinds of possibilities. You could really see something like that in the southeastern portion of the map. The Lordship of the Isles and the Spindrift Isles, especially. You could have all kinds of adventures going from the little islands to little islands, and you could stop at Duxchan, and there's all kinds of things you could do down there. You could really explore Hepmonaland and the Paliso Swamp. There's a ton of opportunities down there for a waterborne adventure that you don't really see. And I love the idea that there are underwater realms just as important and active as the landborne realms. You've got sea elves, you've got the other races that I mentioned. There's all kinds of things you could do down there, and especially since the underwater realms, the way the underwater races are described, they're less like an expansive realm than a small little town, for want of a better word, that is very centrally located. But you don't have to follow that in the monster manual. You could go out of your way to have a whole expansive kingdom of sea elves or of tritons or merfolk or whatever in a lot of these different places, and then you could have like the merfolk over here and the Sahuagin over here, and they're fighting. But there's the Lakotha, whatever, you know what I mean. And tritons and all kinds of other things, all having these interactions with each other, and that could form a basis of a really neat set of adventures in a kind of environment that you don't really see a lot. Now, this is one place that in my own perception, the Forgotten Realms does really well, because it has the Sea of Fallen Stars and it has the Sword Coast, and you really get a sense that there's a lot of shipborne traffic happening all over these places. There's lots of pirates and things like that, and lots of opportunities for little islands and underwater stuff. They did a whole book, I think, in the Forgotten Realms on this subject. And I would like to see more of that in the World of Greyhawk. Anyway, this is just an observation I had, building on my previous observation. You could also do a lot of this stuff in the extreme northwest of the Flonesse, past the Drawmidge Ocean. You've got the Gulf of Gayar with a lot of tiny islands and stuff like that. You could have a whole kind of Sinbad-themed adventure series going on over there, because there's a zillion little islands, and you got warring cities and kind of stuff. There's all kinds of cool stuff you could do on a waterborne adventure up there. I think the ARDC area is ripe for that kind of expansion and development. And of course, we already have the Near Dive as something that we know has a lot of shipborne traffic. Woolly Bay, Relmore Bay, the Sea of Gernat, all of those are perfect opportunities to have a lot of things going on the ships, and obviously when you do have access to a ship, you have a lot. The PCs can get to other places relatively quickly compared to going on overland. So this is also an opportunity to kind of mix things up. If you have a campaign that's set in the Pomarge, for example, you could take ship out of Blue, and all of a sudden you head over to ID, and it's a whole nother place that you got there in a couple of weeks because you're on this ship, rather than having to go overland, which could take months and months. And I think, in that respect, it also opens up the strategic possibilities for the DM to enable the players to have adventures in widely disparate places, because all of a sudden you have this this added speed of the waterborne travel. These are just a couple observations I had. What do you think? Let me know. Have you done a lot with waterborne travel and seaborne adventures? I'm not talking about stuff that's close to the coasts here. I'm talking about stuff that's actually in the water, off, far enough away from land that you can't see it. Have you ever done anything like that in your World of Greyhawk? I'd love to hear your experiences if you have. Let me know in the comments what you think, and hope you enjoyed this one. Just as a reminder, the people on my Patreon get to see these videos 2 weeks early, so link in the description below. And I will talk to you later. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.